Welcome back. Common Core Geometry. We're looking at Module 5, Lesson 15, over on pages 192 and 193 in the Teacher's Guide, the Exploratory Challenge. Well, let's look at 192. So in this case, it looks like we're looking at secants that touch the circle in 2 points each. So let's just draw it, make it look like the picture, and then we'll do some measurements and some discovery. So we'll start out with a circle. That's good. And then we'll go ahead and grab a line. Oops, line tool. I guess the ray tool, better choice. Let's do the ray tool. We'll have one line here, and the other one, say, over here. I didn't put them on the circle. I probably could have put them on the circle. Well, that's okay. Let's go ahead and find those intersecting points, though. We're going to need those. 1, 2, 3, 4. So those are there. And I'm just going to go ahead and select and label the points those in the diagram. So it looks like the vertex out here is C. That is C, so that's good. It calls these H and I, so I'll just click here. I'll call this point H, this point I, this point is D and E. All right, so D. Get it? D and E. I didn't like the names of these points because they're duplicated, but that's all right. We'll just use these to slide around the circle. All right, let's go ahead and set up a couple of measurements. We mostly are going to want this arc length and this arc length, and then we'll show a relation between this angle and these arc lengths. So fortunately, I don't know any other way to set this up other than to measure maybe the central angle, or I guess we could measure the actual length of this arc. We could certainly do that, and then divide it by the circumference. That would work and convert it into degrees. So that's one way. I think it's just easier to measure the central angle. So we will set those all up, and then we'll hide them. So I'm just going to grab a couple of segments. I'm going to grab this one, this one, this one, this one. So when I measure this angle, that'll be this arc. And when I measure this angle, that will be this arc. So let's just go ahead and measure those angles really quick. Maybe we want to do this. Okay, and maybe we want to do this. And then we'll go ahead and we'll label these up using a little text box. We'll type out here. We'll say this is the measure of arc DE, and that's going to be equal to the measure of the central angle. In this case, to get the numeric value in there, I'll use an object, and I remember that being labeled alpha. That just did it on its own. I just remember it. I'll say OK to that. We'll do the same thing over here. Hit the text box. This is going to be the measure of arc HI. That is going to be beta. And those are there. And just to make these sort of stand out a little bit better, I'm thinking that we will actually maybe mark up these arcs and such. But before we do that, we don't need all these things on, so let's go to the hide tool. We can hide these radii that we created to measure. We can even hide these interior measurements if we can. And we'll click off. Hopefully those all go away. All right, so little extra step to do that. I think it does make things a little more clear though if we set up this circular arc. So if I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and mark the center of the circle and then the segments on the circle. And kind of see how that got a little highlighted. I'm going to use this and make that a little thicker. And I think it'll stand out a lot better if I grab a color. So I'm just going to go ahead and change the color also. I'll make that stand out a little bit better. Let's do the same thing. Let's arc right here to here. Let's use a color, a different color. Maybe I'll just make this one blue. All right, and then something that's neat that we can do is we can grab this and we can make this blue so it matches. And I can make this purple so that it matches too. I think it's just a little more clear, so what's going on with which. And I can even include these endpoints if I wanted to. I can go ahead and click on those. I can make it blue to match the blue. I can make this one blue to match the blue. I'll make these purple just so that everything is all consistent. Okay, so that looks like it's all set up. I could certainly move the vertex around. You can see how the arcs are changing. I can move these points. Use these handles to see how those are changing, but I think the real value here is if we actually do a little calculation. So let's do one more angle measurement. Let's measure angle ECD. So that gives me the value of that angle. And let's do a little text box. I'll put it out of the way, I guess up here perhaps. And we'll do some calculations over here. So why don't we do the measure of arc DE just for convenience. And I believe that was alpha. It is. I'll put the measure of arc HI. That was beta. And then to kind of point people in the right direction, maybe we will do a calculation. Oh, sorry you were not able to see that box. That was off your screen, so I apologize for that. I was just putting these in. Then we're going to want the difference. So why don't I say, I'm just going to abbreviate DE minus HI. And I want to actually do a calculation. So let's put in, it should be the alpha. I think I have to be inside this box. Minus, all right. I'll just leave that as a placeholder. We'll fix that in a second. And then at the bottom, we'll put the measure of angle. What was it? ECD. And we'll put what that is equal to. And I remember that being this one. And maybe we'll actually do our calculation over here in the input box. I'm going to need to take the alpha. So I'll call this, I might call this difference maybe. It's going to be the alpha symbol minus the beta, just the way it decided to name it. I could have renamed them, but I'm okay with just leaving theirs. So that I'm going to put in here as the difference in the text box, and maybe we'll even take the difference over too. We can do that. I'll just call it res for result, and we'll take the difference over 2. All right, so let's go ahead and fill in the text box and see how it looks. So this should be, instead of gamma in here, this is kind of messed up. Let's cancel. I want to go to the select tool. Let's let's edit up the text box. So the difference, that should be DIFF. And then I'm going to add another one in here. I'm going to put whatever DE minus HI over 2 is. And that's going to be the subject. Right here. Oops, not that one. And we'll say OK to that. All right, so we should be able to move this box a little bit out of the way. And now I think everything is pretty well set up. We have our measure of arcs conveniently located, the difference between them, difference over 2, and the measure of this angle. So that should pretty much, I think, make it pretty clear how these look and stack up. All right, so that's the exploratory challenge. We could certainly fill in the chart by choosing some of these numbers to make things a little easier for everyone. I could always go to options, rounding, and I have zeros at decimal places. If I do that, maybe that makes this work out a little bit nicer. But we can go ahead and show that difference divided by 2 theorem for those secants meeting outside of the circle. All right, that's about it for this one. We'll try probably try the example on the next page next.